Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1. A prophecy against Egypt. See, the Lord rides on a swift cloud and is coming to Egypt. The idols of Egypt tremble before him, and the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear. Verse 2. I will stir up Egyptian against Egyptian. Brother will fight against brother. Neighbor against neighbor. City against city. Kingdom against kingdom. Verse 3. The Egyptians will lose heart, and I will bring their plans to nothing. They will consult the idols and the spirits of the dead, the mediums and the spiritists. Verse 4. I will hand the Egyptians over to the power of a cruel master, and a fierce king will rule over them, declares the Lord Almighty. Verse 5. The waters of the river will dry up, and the riverbed will be parched and dry. Verse 6. The canals will stink. The streams of Egypt will dwindle and dry up. The reeds and rushes will wither. Verse 7. Also the plants along the Nile, at the mouth of the river. Every sown field along the Nile will become parched, will blow away and be no more. Verse 8. The fishermen will groan and lament. All who cast hooks into the Nile, those who throw nets on the water will pine away. Verse 9. Those who work with combed flax will despair. The weavers of fine linen will lose hope. Verse 10. The workers in cloth will be dejected, and all the wage earners will be sick at heart. Verse 11. The officials of Zoan are nothing but fools. The wise counselors of Pharaoh give senseless advice. How can you say to Pharaoh, I am one of the wise men, a disciple of the ancient kings? Verse 12. Where are your wise men now? Let them show you and make known what the Lord Almighty has planned against Egypt. Verse 13. The officials of Zoan have become fools. The leaders of Memphis are deceived. The cornerstones of her peoples have led Egypt astray. Verse 14. The Lord has poured into them a spirit of dizziness. They make Egypt stagger in all that she does, as a drunkard staggers around in his vomit. Verse 15. There is nothing Egypt can do, head or tail, palm branch or reed. Verse 16. In that day the Egyptians will become weaklings. They will shudder with fear at the uplifted hand that the Lord Almighty raises against them. Verse 17. And the land of Judah will bring terror to the Egyptians. Everyone to whom Judah is mentioned will be terrified, because of what the Lord Almighty is planning against them. Verse 18. In that day 5 cities in Egypt will speak the language of Canaan and swear allegiance to the Lord Almighty. One of them will be called the City of the Sun. Verse 19. In that day there will be an altar to the Lord in the heart of Egypt, and a monument to the Lord at its border. Verse 20. It will be a sign and witness to the Lord Almighty in the land of Egypt. When they cry out to the Lord because of their oppressors, he will send them a savior and defender, and he will rescue them. Verse 21. So the Lord will make himself known to the Egyptians, and in that day they will acknowledge the Lord. They will worship with sacrifices and grain offerings. They will make vows to the Lord and keep them. Verse 22. The Lord will strike Egypt with a plague. He will strike them and heal them. They will turn to the Lord, and he will respond to their pleas and heal them. Verse 23. In that day there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. The Assyrians will go to Egypt and the Egyptians to Assyria. The Egyptians and Assyrians will worship together. Verse 24. In that day Israel will be the third, along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. Verse 25. The Lord Almighty will bless them, saying, Blessed be Egypt my people, Assyria my handiwork, and Israel my inheritance.